What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another live stream for you guys. We've got some transfer news, we've got some predictions, not just Tottenham predictions, but we've got predictions for the whole Premier League, 1 to 20.
Favourite
Golden
time
Boot.
of year.
Yeah, well, the most hopeful time of year, let's put it that way. And I
Time
guess
to get some mud on our faces. That's what it's time. A mud bath.
especially for me with the predictions that I've made. You look at last year, going back to the predictions we made last year, I put Pedro Porro as flop of the season. Didn't quite work out. I can't really remember the other predictions I made. Did you make any really terrible ones?
I put, well, in terms of Spurs predictions, I think we both predicted 5th, so that's pretty good. I predicted Solomon as my flop of the season. He looks to be on his way out, so that's not a terrible prediction. I did predict Maddison to get most assists, which he didn't in the end. I think, Brennan and Son were level, I think, weren't they? They're the ones who ended up getting. So my predictions weren't too bad, but I mean, our top goal scorer was Charlison. Didn't really pan out that way.
Second.
Second. I'm trying to remember who I got last year. I can't remember exactly everything, but I don't think they were terrible, but weren't perfect. You always strive for more.
Yeah, didn't you have Jadon Sancho as your surprise package last season?
If we talk about Premier League, yeah, Jadon Sancho. I had he did well at Dortmund. He did very well at Dortmund. Should have given him a chance. But
look, let's get into it. We're going to start off talking about our Tottenham predictions, then we'll get into the transfer news a bit later in the stream. But we're going to do 2 segments. So we're going to do predicting where Spurs are going to be in the competitions next season, and then we're going to do individual awards in the squad. So we're going to start off with the competitions. We're going to start off with the Premier League, where me and Sim both think Spurs will finish in the Premier League next season. So let's have it. Sim thinks 4th.
I've gone
and
4th.
I've gone for 3rd.
So you're surprised at my 4th, but you're not. But you put us higher. Like, 4th, all right. I mean, that 3rd.
Yeah, my thinking behind 3rd is because I think some craziness is going to be happening in the Premier League this season.
Craziness.
We know 115 Man City charges is going to come to light in January, February time. So we'll see what happens with that. But my thinking behind 3rd is I'm thinking that a certain team is going to drop out completely.
I see. So you're thinking that if the charges are brought to City, that then Tottenham will be bumped up one. And
basically,
when's that going to happen? Is that going to happen?
They're saying January, February.
So you're confident enough to put it in your predictions that you reckon Man City are going to get relegated?
I wouldn't say confident enough, maybe stupid enough.
I have gone for 4th. I think hopefully we sort out these bloody back post issues that we've been detailing in our pre-season analysis. But I'm liking the shape of the squad. I'm liking where we're heading. I like the young players that are integrating. I actually think there's a chance we could go above Liverpool, given that they haven't made any signings and they're going to be in a transition this season under Arne Slot. But I'm going to bank on the fact they probably make 1 or 2 signings between now and the end of the window. And if they do, I think that just about keeps them above us. And I think quality-wise, they still have the quality edge on us at the moment. But I do think, looking at our rivals for that top 4 position, Man United, Newcastle, Chelsea, I just think we're a bit more settled at the moment, potentially. I think the quality of the squad, I rate ours at the moment. And I like the way we play football, and I think we're more geared to control and win games than those teams at the moment. So I've just gone for us to sneak in that top 4. And I think as well, obviously, Villa got the 4th last season. I'm just not convinced that they've massively improved their team.
Made a hell of a lot of signings, though, haven't they?
They have, but I'm not convinced that their first 11's improved. And albeit maybe you could argue their squad depth might have improved, but I'm looking at their first 11. I don't think they have a better first 11 than last season. I don't think Diaby and Luiz have been replaced by better players. I really don't. And I think with Champions League football added into the mix, I think it's going to be a bit of a tougher season for them. So I've gone for them to drop down a bit. So I've gone for Tottenham to steal that fourth place.
And you never know how Champions League football for the first time is going to impact their season as well. We envisaged maybe, Europa League was going to massively impact it. And I guess it did. They did have a drop-off towards the end of the season. It's just that we had a bigger drop-off than they had, which was unfortunate. But with Liverpool, you are going into the unknown. It's really hard to predict, isn't it? New manager. It's always hard to follow on such a big figurehead in the club. You look at Man United after Sir Alex, you look at Arsenal after Arsene Wenger. Now this is Liverpool after Jurgen Klopp. Are they going to have a massive drop-off? It's going to be interesting to see.
Wait and see. We'll get into that in our Premier League predictions, I guess. But I've gone for Tottenham to get back into Champions League football, and I think that would be progress.
Let's look at where we think Spurs are what we're gonna do on our European exploits. Are we gonna win the Europa League this year? Doesn't look like me or Sim think so, but Sim has gone for Spurs to lose in the final.
Heartbreak.
And I've gone for Spurs to lose in the semi-final.
Look, I'm looking at the teams, and look, I think we just got, at the moment, the teams are in the Europa League. I definitely think we've got to fancy our chances of having a deep run, for sure. And considering there aren't going to be any Champions League dropouts after the group stages as well, which I believe, if you look at the stats about who has been finalists in the Europa League, I believe, like in the last 10 finals, like 8 of them or something, or 7 of them have been finalists, 5 have been Champions League dropouts. So that's a big advantage of this is the first year. There are some really good teams in there. I'm watching Porto last season. I don't know how many, if they've lost any of their main players. I can't think of anyone off the top of their head they've lost.
There's rumours that Galeno's going out the door.
But he hasn't gone yet. So at the moment, they've still got their core there. Did the manager leave? I think.
The manager left.
The manager left. So they do have a different manager. But they've got a really good squad, and they gave Arsenal a run for their money in the Champions League last year. So they have something to worry about. Obviously, Man United are in there. Ten Hag has previously got to Europa League final with Ajax, got to a semi-final of the Champions League of Ajax as well. So, they've improved as well, their team. There's someone to be worried about. Sociedad will have a really good team, albeit Mourinho might be leaving, but Zubimendi's staying. They've got a really good front three. So they're definitely a team to be worried about. There are some good teams in there, but I think teams will be fearing us as well. I think teams will be looking at us thinking, I don't want to be drawing them early on, especially in the knockouts. And I think Tottenham have got to be looking at this as a real opportunity to break that trophy duck. And I think Europa League is a really good opportunity this year with no Champions League dropouts. We're definitely going into one of the favourites. But I just feel like if I say we're going to be winners, I'm jinxing it. So I'm saying we're going to get to the final. I don't know what will happen.
You're jinxing us getting into the final?
Not necessarily. I don't think it's the final. Look, we've been to enough finals at this point. I don't think it's a jinx. But I think I can see us getting to a final. Whether we win or not, obviously it's a one-off game. Who knows? But I'm going for us to maybe get some heartbreak. But I'm going for us to get to a final. Yeah,
the team I'm fearing kind of the most is Athletic Bilbao. They look like a really, really good side. Had a good season last year. Nico Williams, off the back of that Euros, has another year under his belt. He's going to be, someone definitely to fear in this Europa League. And also Fenerbahce dropping out from the Champions League last night. With Jose Mourinho, he's going to want to prove a point if he gets Spurs, if he draws Spurs in the Europa League. So, yeah, I agree. There are quite a few teams that you need to worry about. The ones I've got here are Bilbao, Porto, United, Sociedad, Fenerbahce, and then lesser so Roma and Lazio, which I think on our given day, we can beat any of those sides. Mm-hmm. We can. But the one I really do fear the most is Bilbao. I think they're a really top side.
If you go 1 to 11, though, you could definitely argue we have the best side in the competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely make a case for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, we have to go deep into the Europa League this season, and if we win it, it'll be a major success for this football club to get back in the Champions League as well if we win it. But we've got predicted us both get back into the Champions League anyway. But look, final or semi-final, would you be happy with both here and now saying, get to a final, get to a semi-final?
I wouldn't.
Is that success?
As long as we're getting into the top 4, I think it's progress. I wouldn't say call it success, but I'll call it progress. I would say that's evidence that we can manage European football while having a good league campaign, and that's exactly what you need to be a top club. So I'd be happy if I'm sat here at the end of the season, we've got top 4, we've made a European final. I'm not going to be sitting here saying I might disappoint with Ange. I think that would be clear evidence that he can manage a squad for a good league campaign, get into the top four while also managing a European campaign and having a deep run and getting to a final. And that would show me evidence that this is a project to invest in my opinion, if we were to do that. Obviously, I'm not going to be sitting at the end of the season deliriously happy that we haven't won another, if we haven't won either of those trophies, but it will definitely show progress, and that's the main thing.
Next up, let's look at the FA Cup. Not won the FA Cup since 1991. Sim's gone for Spurs to get knocked out in the 5th round, and I've gone, is one better the quarterfinal, or is it two better?
6th round is the quarterfinal.
Yeah, so I've gone for one better in the quarterfinal. And we did get really unlucky with the draw last year, drawing Man City in the 3rd round, was it? Or the fourth round. Oh yeah, we beat Burnley in the 3rd round. And I just feel, with the luck that we got in the draw last year, luck's due to come our way this year in the draws for the FA Cup. So I think we meet one of the big boys, whether it be a Liverpool, a Man City, someone like that in the quarterfinal, and go out. But I think we'll have it our way until then.
I just think 5th round, I believe the 5th round would be around, February, March time, I would think. And with European football coming back into the fold, I think we're going to take that very seriously. Obviously, Premier League football always takes precedent with a challenge to get back in that top 4. I just feel like if we get a difficult draw away at a Premier League side, there's some really good teams this season, teams who are not in European football, who are going to be concentrating on the FA Cup and these competitions. And I feel like they will have the impetus on those competitions more than Tottenham. So I feel like if we get a Premier League away team in that kind of round, I reckon I could see us going out. Unfortunately, no, it doesn't even have to be a top team. It could be like a Wolves, or it could be something like that, or a Bournemouth. I can see us going out.
That'll be a major disappointment if we do go out to like a Wolves or a Bournemouth in the FA Cup. It really would be. But last but not least, we're going to look at the Carabao Cup, and we've both gone for deep runs in the Carabao Cup as well. Sim's gone for semi-final. And I have gone for us to see those armpits, to lift that trophy.
We are winning the trophy.
Come on, we're winning the trophy. And everyone goes on about Spurs, never win trophies, never do this, never do that. But when we do win a trophy, it usually is the Carabao Cup. So 99 and 2008, obviously, were the last 2 times that we have won a trophy. And they were both the League Cup, the Carabao Cup. And I feel like Ange is going to bring one home this year. And I think that's going to be it.
Obviously, last year... we went out in the 2nd round of the Carabao because that was one of Ange's first games in charge, and he rested everyone and he wanted to take a good look at the squad. So that was really unfortunate at the time. So we went out on penalties. So look, I do expect a more solid run. Obviously, with it happening in the first half of the season, I know we're going to have European football, but hopefully we'll be a bit fresher than the heavy legs of when it gets to crunch time in the second half of the season. I can see us having a deep run. Once it gets to a 2-leg affair against a top team, which I assume we will be facing in the semi-final, you never know. If we face a Liverpool, an Arsenal, Man City, even a Man United, a Newcastle over 2 legs, I don't know. I've just got a feeling over 2 legs we might get undone around that time. It's around December time as well. Fixtures are coming thick and fast. We're still going to have European football as well. So I reckon semi-final... we might bow out in a 2-legged affair.
You've gone for a lot of heartbreak this season.
That's Spurs. I'm a Spurs
You've gone for a lot of heartbreak.
It's usually a good prediction.
We have to win something this year. Top 4 and a trophy has got to be the aim, and we've got to succeed. Come on.
Look, that's what I want. Obviously, that will definitely be the aim. If we can have some deep runs in the Cup and show progress in the league, I think the club will find that acceptable. But obviously, the aim will be to win that trophy and break that duck. And I don't say, look, once you get to a final, anything's possible. And I'm not saying we definitely won't, but I'm just predicting us to have a bit of a heartbreak.
Would you say that's a good season, the predictions that you made?
Is it a good season? Yeah, I would say it's a good season. It's not a successful season, but it's definitely a positive season. I don't think you can say it's not. Like, I don't think Ange is under pressure when he has that kind of season. In fact, you're probably sitting here at the end of the season saying he's done a really good job, probably, if we do that. Obviously, it's all context dependent, how badly we lose in the cups and stuff like that, and who we lose to as well. If we lose to a team we really should be beating in a final or something, then that'll count against him. But I definitely don't think people would say that's a bad season. If we finish fourth, we get to finals, and we show progress and we show more consistency in the league, I think that's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's not either just a bad or a good season. Could be a mediocre season. I think, like, if we do finish top four and don't bring a trophy home, I'm not going to be overly delighted with the season. I'm going to think, like, yeah, good season of progression, but we could have done more. That's what's going to probably make me sit here feeling we just need to bring that trophy home. Mm-hmm. We just need to bring it. And would I kind of give up progression in the league and at the expense of a Carabao Cup? No, I wouldn't. Would I do it for an FA Cup? Probably no. Would I do it for Europa League? That's a different question. Maybe I would. Maybe I would accept finishing 5th or 6th if we bring home the Europa League and get back in the Champions League next season. But is it worth it for an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup, would you say, not showing progression in the league?
No, because Ange will be out the door. That's the reality. If we're not showing progress in the league, if we're stagnating in the same way that we did last season, and we're showing that same traits that we did, we can win a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup. Or if we're finishing like lower than we were last season, Andrew's going to be under pressure and he could well be gone. That's the reality. That's the cutthroat nature of being a Premier League manager. You need to show progression, and the board care about Champions League football. They care about getting that Champions League money, so we can progress as a club and spend more money on players, and the club get more money. That's what their focus is on. So the club don't care about. I mean, obviously they would like to win Carabaos and FA Cups, but they wouldn't if you gave the board a choice, Carabao Cup or FA Cup or Champions League football. They're choosing Champions League football every time. So that's what they're judging it on, right? So if I want this project to work and I want Ange to be here long term, he's going to need to do that.
Do you think no matter what, if we don't finish in the Champions League spots this season, he'll get sacked?
No, not unless we win Europa League. I don't think
That is getting back in the Champions League.
Yeah, I know. So you're saying if we finish outside the top four, right, and don't win Europa League, obviously it all depends on the context, but I think he's under pressure. If he wins if he finishes 5th, gets a deep run in the Europa League, and wins one of the Carabao or FA Cup, he'll probably be okay.
Because there's still a case to say it's not beyond all realms of possibilities where we do show progression in terms of our football, playing consistently better, and still not finishing the top four, with other teams coming to the fore. You don't know, because other teams could be progressing at a faster rate than us. We could still show progression and still not finish in the top four next season.
I would say it's unlikely, but we could. I mean, we got 66 points last season, right? 70 is usually what you need for Champions League football. If we get 70 and don't finish in the top four, that's unlikely, I would say. So I think it's unlikely we show progression and don't get top four. I mean, it's possible, and if we say at the end of the season we got 75 points, so we're finishing 5th, I'll say, look, I'll hold my hands up and I'll say that's it's unlucky, but it's worth pursuing. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think if we show progression, we will finish in a higher place.
Well, those are our predictions for the coming season. Let me know yours in the comments section below. Let's move on to the individual predictions, and we're going to go for player of the season, and we've gone for the same guy, Cuti Romero. And he probably should have won it last year, let's be honest. I think he was brilliant from start to finish. He's come back. He's looked brilliant in the 45 minutes that he's played. He's going to be completely central to that back line, the leader at the back. And yeah, I think it's going to be Romero.
Yeah, and I think as well, he's hopefully with the back line's more settled going into the season. He's coming into it in really confident mood, having won that Copa America in the summer. So I think he's coming into the season with a sense of authority. I think you've got to look at a lot of his performances last season, especially at the beginning. He was stellar, and I think you look at his form in the Copa. I think he was probably the best defender in the Copa. I think he was didn't really get any yellow cards, wasn't giving away any fouls. In that kind of form, he's going to shine, and he's so consistent. He's so important to how he play, and he's a vice captain. So I've gone for Romero to be our most consistent player and get Player of the Year.
Young Player of the Season. Again, we've gone for the exact same player in Lucas Bergvall. And when you've seen what he's been doing in pre-season, it's hard not to pick him, to be honest. He's been brilliant, creative. He's got that aggression to him. No one seems to be kind of being able to stand up to him. He's really aggressive for someone of 18 to be that physical against like Bayern Munich regular seniors. I think it's really impressive, and I got a feeling that once he breaks into the team, it'll be so hard to drop him.
Yeah, and if he continues in the way of pre-season, I think he's going to make a real impact, and he's going to find his way into the 11, and he's going to find opportunities to start games and impacting the team. And I've been so impressed with what I've seen, not just on the ball, which he looks silky, creative, and looks like he's got moments of magic, but off the ball, really impressive. His physicality, his ability to compete with more senior players, his confidence he does to pinch the ball off really experienced players and use his physicality in that way. So that convinces me he could have a real impact this season. So I've gone for him as my young player of the year.
Next up is surprise package of the season. So what player do we think is going to surprise us the most this season? Sim has gone for Rodrigo Bentancur.
Yeah, and I think people are sleeping on him a bit. People have forgotten how good he can be. And I feel like when people talk about our centre midfield problems, they forget, before his injury and before he had those problems with the injury, he was so impressive and one of the best centre mids in the league. And I think last year, he's really struggled to get back into full fitness. He had that big injury. And I think people have forgotten how good he can be. And I think he's going to remind a few people this season. There are signs of him getting back to his best in the Copa. He had a really strong showing for 45 minutes in the friendly against Bayern. And I think there are signs of him getting back to his best. And if he can get back to his best, he can solve a lot of problems for us. So I've gone for Bentancur.
Yeah, I've gone for young old Mikey Moore. I've gone for Mikey Moore, and I think that he's going to be a standout in the Cups and the Europa League when he gets his minutes. And I feel like towards the back end, maybe later on the season from February onwards, I think he's going to play his way into the team a little bit, and I think he's going to show his quality. At the age of 17, 16 during pre-season, I feel like he's probably going to do more than any other 16 or 17-year-old ever have done for Spurs. So I think that's a surprise package for me in Mikey Moore. Most improved player. So this is a toss-up. I couldn't think between the two players that actually have been mentioned here, but let's go and have a look. Sim has gone for Decky. I've gone for Rodrigo Bentancur in this one. I feel like when you've seen pre-season, Kulusevski has definitely been the most improved, has shown the most improvement so far. But basically, for all the reasons that you say about Rodrigo Bentancur for surprise package was my thinking in terms of being the most improved player. He had a horrible season through injury last year. Once he came back, he looked incredible, and then got an injury straight away from Matty Cash. And I feel like what you've seen from him in pre-season, in those 45 minutes that he has played, what you saw from him in the Copa for Uruguay, I feel like he's going to be a really important player for us this season. So I've gone for Rodrigo.
Yeah, I think Decky's change of position is really going to help him. I think, obviously, if you remember in the first 10 games of last season, he was actually playing on the right for all those games and did really well. But I think once, he got maybe found out a bit, or the opposition defenders got a bit used to him on that side, he started to struggle. And I'm really liking the look of him in this central area. I think he's going to get him closer to players, which he likes. He likes to make quick interchanges, and I also hopefully it gets him closer to goal and he starts getting more goals. And he's got such a good shot as well, which he has shown in pre-season. There was some of the goals he scored. He's got really good instincts. So I think Decky playing in those central areas is going to improve a lot, and I've gone for him to be our most improved player.
All right, now we get onto the biggest flop. Who we think the biggest flop is going to be next season. Let's go and reveal them. Sim has gone for Turbo Timo Werner to be the biggest flop.
Yeah, it was a really tough decision. I was looking at the squad, and I'm actually I think it's a testament, to be fair, to the squad that we have. That I'm looking at the squad and I'm really struggling to pick who I think will really struggle in the role that they're given. And I actually don't think Werner necessarily will struggle, but I had to pick someone. And I think when I'm looking at the wing position, I can see him getting a few assists, but will he justify his position in the squad with his output? I'm not convinced. I think maybe he could at the end of the season we might be sitting here with I think he has to get probably between 10 and 15 goal contributions to justify his position in the squad. Will he get that? I think the jury's out at the moment. I think pre-season he's flattered to deceive. I think he had a good start to his Spurs career, but at the back end of last season, I know he was injured for a bit, but he didn't play too well when he was called upon. So, I mean, this might be harsh. I like Timo. I hope I'm wrong. But I've gone for him to be the biggest flop.
Yeah, I think anyone that we would have picked would have been harsh, because I was similar to you. I was looking through the squad and I couldn't really pick someone. And with Timo, I actually feel like Timo could get a lot of assists this season. A lot. With the way we like to play, with his runs down the wing and his low-driven crosses for Solanke in the middle, I feel like he can get quite a few assists when he is on the pitch. It's the question of how often is he going to start in the Premier League for us. I don't think that often, but he will get starts in the Europa League and FA Cup and Carabao Cup. I went for Yves Bissouma. I think that he had a poor season last year, barring the opening 10 games. I think him and Maddison definitely flattered to deceive last season, so I think you can probably say they had somewhat of a flop of a season, both of them, especially compared to the way they started it. And I feel like after this season, Ange is probably going to realise that we need a monster six to come in, and I think we'll get that next summer. I think this is probably going to be Bissouma's last year at the club, in my opinion. And I feel like, that's going to be the feeling. We need better than Bissouma. So he's going to be my flop of the season.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I know that when he's on form, we know how good he can be. I actually think in pre-season he's been pretty good. But, he's had a few incidences, outside of football. And he also is lacking consistency as well. Did struggle a bit in the last game against Bayern. So maybe, but we'll have to wait and see.
The problem for me with Bissouma, he can have even in his bad run from after the first 10 games, he did have some good performances sprinkled in there. But there's been, in terms of since he's joined Spurs, there's been no sort of consistency apart from the early part of last season at all in the past 2 years. And you got to say, when we signed him to what we thought he was going to be, he hasn't lived up to that reputation. For 2 years he's been here now, so he needs to massively improve, particularly on a consistent basis. Massively.
I think he just needs consistency. That's the main thing.
Let's go for best signing of the season. So we've got to pick between Archie Gray and Luis Solanke. So we've both gone for Dominic Solanke or Timo Werner.
Yeah, we have gone for Solanke. I've gone for Solanke. Yeah, we both have. But I just think he's the perfect fit for the team. Looking at some of the strikers available and who can really fulfill the purpose that we're looking for. And I think he is going to be a top signing. I think he's really going to fit in. I think he's got really good mentality as well, which will really benefit how he gels with the squad. And I just think the type of striker and the profile he is absolutely perfect. So, yeah, I think no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to see what he brings to the team. Well, I kind of know what he's going to bring to the team, but I'm excited to see it in front of my very own eyes. And I think it's going to be a really good signing. And he's going to score. I reckon he gets 20 goals. I really do. Mm-hmm. And if he gets that, that's an unbelievable season. When's the last time? Well, it was Kane, 2 years ago, that we had 20 plus goals from a striker.
It's only one season.
Yeah, it feels like a lot longer. It feels like a lot longer.
We weren't even that far off. Yeah, like last season was Sonny got 17.
Yeah, that's true. Top goal scorer, it's kind of obvious. We've both gone for Dominic Solanke. If I would say to you, make a prediction of exactly how many goals, I'm going to say 23 next season.
All comps or just Prem?
Prem,
I'm going to say 24.
24. One better. You had to go one better. And then the top assister, we've both gone for the same guy as well in Son Heung-min. I think Solanke is going to absolutely love Sonny by the end of the season. I think he's going to lay so many on a plate for him. And he is our top assister in Premier League history, and I'm backing him to add to those tallies by some distance this season.
Yeah, and why I think Son, obviously top assister, moving back to the left, he's going to be in a lot of situations to either go to the byline, and because he's so two-footed, he can, I think, whip that ball across the face of goal, and I think he'll get assists that way. But I also think when he cuts inside, unlike Werner, who I don't really trust a cross when he's whipping it in on the inside. I think Sonny is very accurate with those instep crosses there, and he gets a lot of whip on them. So I think Sonny will be getting a lot of assists. Also, he'll probably take some free kicks, crossing it in, some corners. So I do think the occasional set piece assist he'll get as well. Counter-attacking assists he'll get as well. So I think he was our top assister last season, and I'm going for him to do it again.
All right, so there you have it. So let's just a quick recap of our predictions. A player of the season, we've both gone for Romero. Young player of the season, we've both gone for Lucas Bergvall. Surprise package, Sim's gone for Bentancur. I went for Mikey Moore. Most improved, Sim's gone for Decky. I've gone for Bentancur. Biggest flop, Sim's gone for Werner. I've gone for Bissouma. Best signing and top goal scorer, we've both picked Solanke. And top assister, we've both picked Son Heung-min. It's just absolutely madness. It's absolutely madness. Every single year we do these kind of things, and every single year we have so many of the same predictions. Yeah. How does this work out every single year?
Just we're brothers, I guess.
Every year, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to say Solanke's going to be top goal scorer.
Yeah, but you could have picked Van de Ven, you could have picked Son, you could have picked Solanke, you could have picked anyone, or we both picked Romero as player of the season. You could have picked Archie Gray, you could have picked many other young players that we've got coming through at the moment. We both picked Lucas Bergvall. You've picked Bentancur's surprise package. I picked him as most improved, which is like not too dissimilar either. It is a bit mad.
Well, let the chat decide why that happens.
Yeah, well, let us know in the comment section below. But that is our predictions for regarding Tottenham for the upcoming season. But now, let me introduce you to FanTeam. So what FanTeam is, basically, for you avid FPL players out there, think FPL, but think about winning money as well. We've got a game that we're in association with where it's £3 entry, and you can win quite a lot of money. The top 10% of players do get paid, but if you do use our link, which is pinned to the live chat and also in the description, it is free to play for all of you for the coming season. So do you want to let the people know how this game works?
So it's very similar to FPL. It's pretty much the same rules as FPL, except in this game you pick your team just like you pick an FPL team, but there is no budget for your team. So you can pick whoever you want. The only rules are that you can't have more than 3 players from the same team, very similar to FPL on that front. The scoring system when it comes to goals, assists, clean sheets, all the same as FPL, except in this game you get more outfield players get more points for having shots on target, unlike in FPL, and obviously goalkeepers get points for saves. You get 2 wild cards throughout the season. Again, similar to FPL, you do get 1 free transfer. Same as FPL, -4 if you want to have more than 1 transfer per game week. You have a 15-man squad with 4 substitutes. You have 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and you have 2 goalkeepers and 3 attackers. Again, it's all very similar to FPL. The only difference is once you join this game, you're up against at the moment, you're up against 3,500 other people. The top 10% win. The prize pot is £30,000. It's only £3 to join, and in fact, if you click our link and join, you can actually join for free between now and Friday at 12 p.m. And first place wins £5,000, and the top 10% of the of players will get paid out. So if you're looking, if you enjoy FPL and you want to play and actually have a chance of earning a bit of money by being in the first 10% of players, then join FanTeam, because this is the way to do it. It's exactly the same as FPL, except you can actually win money.
Yeah, it's mad. And me and Sim are both definitely playing. We'll show you our teams in a little bit. Just to reiterate, you have to be over 18 to play, and please gamble aware. T&Cs do apply, and you have to join before Thursday. Is it Friday morning at
Friday,
midnight?
12 p.m.
12 p.m. Friday, 12 p.m. To use our link and join for free. So absolutely free to play, and a hell of a lot of money to be able to win. So we were thinking, obviously you're allowed 3 players from any certain team. Which 3 Spurs players would you have in your team? I've already picked 3 Spurs players in my team. But I want to know from you guys out there in the chat, which 3 Spurs players will you be able to would you pick in your team? Well, who would you pick?
Well, I have picked Porro. I think in the defence, I think he's going to be getting a lot of goal contributions. I reckon he's going to score even more goals than he did last season. He's already got 2 in pre-season. He takes free kicks as well. He's going to get assists, and I think last season he got 7 goals, 2 assists. I'm banking him on improving that. So I think a defender getting goal contributions is invaluable. I think Solanke's a no-brainer. I think he's one where he's going to get bucket loads of goals. I think he's almost guaranteed to play most games as well in the Premier League. He's Prem proven. So I think he's one where you just need to get him in. I think he's a sure thing. And then in midfield, it's a toss-up between either you could go Heung-min Son, who's an obvious pick, who will be playing on the left-hand side. So I do expect his goal output to decrease, but his assist output might increase. So it might balance himself out on that. And he will, look, he is Son. He's going to get goals anyway. He'll probably get at least 10 Premier League goals anyway, albeit I don't see him getting the 17 he got last season. Or you could go maybe a bit outside the box and go for Kulusevski, who has really improved in playing in the central area. If he gets the game time, whether he's playing in the midfield or in the forward line, he looks like a man on form and confident mood. He's going to get nearer to goal. And I think in the pre-season he got 3 goals, 4 assists. And I can see him really upping his goal output during the season as well. So Decky might be a shout as well. But again, you have an unlimited budget, so you don't need to be worried about this player's too expensive. You can always go for the better player.
Yeah. The problem I have with Kulusevski is if he's guaranteed to start every week or not. Like, Sonny is going to be guaranteed to start every single week. So I did side with Sonny over Decky. The other picks that you said, I put him in my team as well, Pedro Porro and Dominic Solanke. I mean, Pedro Porro was one of the biggest outputs in terms of defenders last year in FPL, and Dominic Solanke got 19 goals last year in a Bournemouth side, so you envisage that he will get more than that in a Spurs side. But let's go and have a look at our teams. I'll just take you through the site first and foremost. If you bring that up, this is the game that you want to be joining, the EPL Unlimited Season Games. As you can see, it's £3 to enter, but if you do use our link in the description and in the top pin to the live, to the top of the live chat, it will be completely free for you guys to play. And there you can see 30,000 prize pot. Well, that is monstrous.
Yeah, and the prize pot is big. First the top 10% of players as well win. So if you finish top, you can win £5,000. But it's not capped at that, because the more players you join, the prize pot's going to increase. So the payouts will also increase.
Yeah. So this is my team. I've gone for David Raya in goal. I've gone for Dan Burn, Pedro Porro and Gvardiol at the back. So David Raya obviously kept the most clean sheets in the league last year. Dan Burn, he loves a goal from those set pieces, so I feel like he can get a few this year. And particularly in the first, you got to realise you can make transfers every week, 1 transfer every week, and you do get 2 wild cards throughout the season as well. So Dan Burn, I feel like, could make a clean sheet as well on the opening day against Southampton. I've got Pedro Porro and Gvardiol. Gvardiol and Pedro Porro kind of speak for themselves. Salah, Foden, Jota and Gordon in the midfield. Gordon, I think, got like 10 goals, 10 assists last season. Jota and Salah, I think Jota's been playing as the number 9 for Liverpool in pre-season. Mo Salah as well, he just gets monstrous numbers every single year. And Phil Foden, Player of the Year in the Premier League last year. And up front, I've gone for Dominic Solanke, Erling Haaland and Alexander Isak, all of them scoring considerable amount of goals last year as well, and I envisage that to carry on this season. And if you look at the games that they all have, like I said, Newcastle at home to Southampton, you think Isak, Gordon and Burn will all do something or get some points. Jota and Salah against Ipswich away, you think that they'll do something. A tricky one is Chelsea at home to Manchester City with Gvardiol, Foden and Haaland. But last year it was 4-4. And if it's a repeat of that, you probably think that Foden, Haaland and Gvardiol could all get some contributions there in the game. So I'm not sure if Foden is definitely going to start the first game because he hasn't played too much in pre-season, along with Gordon as well. But that is the team that I've gone for.
3 Gooners I'm seeing.
That is 3 Gooners you're seeing.
3 Gooners. Can't believe it. Can't believe what I'm saying. I thought we had a no gooner rule.
That's FPL.
I see. When there's money up for grabs,
Exactly. There's no rules.
All the things are all rules out the window. My team is not too dissimilar to most, but there are a few key changes. I've got Nick Pope in goal. I have stuck to the no gooner rule, so I've got some integrity. Nick Pope in goal, playing at home to Southampton. I think there's a good chance he gets a clean sheet. I've got in the back line Trent Alexander-Arnold, Pedro Porro and Gavardio. Trent away at Ipswich. I mean, he's going to surely get some points there. Porro and Gavardio in obviously two players who do get goal contributions as well. Gavardio ended the season on real big goal scoring form. In the midfield, I've got Sonny, Salah, Jota and Eze. I've gone Eze, who's going to be obviously, I feel, the big creative hub for Palace with Olise now gone. A lot of pressure on him. Away at Brentford, I can see him getting some contributions. I've captained Salah as well, away at Ipswich. I think he's looked really good pre-season, so I've gone for him. And then up front, Solanke, Haaland and Isaac as well. With my bench, I've got Pickford, Leif Davis, who got a bucket load of assists for Ipswich last season in the Championship, so I'm willing to see how he does in the Premier League. Obviously, I'm not going to start him against Liverpool, but I'm going to take a look at him. Maatsen, who I'm really a big fan of, and he's now at Villa, and I can see him starting a lot of games for them. And Phil Foden on my bench for now, because he might be injured, so he's going to be sitting on my bench with a view of bringing him in the next game week or so. So that is my team, and that's what I'm going for game week 1.
All right. Well, you got to be in it to win it, guys. Let me reiterate, because I've seen some comments here saying that I'm not paying money for this. You don't need to pay money for this. This is completely free if you do use our link. So be in it to win it. A lot of money up for grabs, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And also, if you do happen to miss the deadline, it's £3 for a whole season of FPL with a chance to win money. If I told you, you're playing FPL now, you could pay £3, and if you finish in the top 10%, you'll win money. It's probably worth it, isn't it?
100%.
So that's worth playing, because you're playing FPL for free now. Obviously, you play with a lot of people play with friends and stuff like that. But if I had the chance to just play £3 with extra incentive to get nearer the top, I think that's definitely worth the money, in my opinion. But if you do join now with the link pinned to the chat, and you join between now and Friday midday, then it's absolutely free to play. So get involved.
And no deposit required as well if you do use our link. So look forward to playing with you all this season. All right, well, let's get into it. Let's get into the transfer news, and let's start off with Matt Law, what he said about the remainder of the transfer window. And he says the plan is for more exits before the transfer window shuts, and just who leaves may dictate any remaining incoming business. And he also says that Spurs are still hoping to add a winger into their transfer business.
Yeah, and that's obviously music to our ears in terms of Tottenham looking to add another winger. That's what we're all hoping for, another high-class player in that position to offer competition with Brennan Johnson. Look, the names are drying up at the moment. There's a lot of moves, obviously. There's other players that we've gone for who've gone to other teams, and our targets do seem to be drying up a bit. I'm worried we might fall into what Liverpool have done in terms of they went for Zubimendi, and they felt like if they didn't get him, there's no other player on the market worth getting. I hope that isn't the case for Tottenham in terms of us missing out on some of our targets, such as Neto and Douye. I hope we have some other targets who we still think can make a contribution. But as we did with our video, as we said, we still need a lot of players to leave to make room. So let's hope we get a move on soon.
Yeah, Matt Law also says that there is confidence that the Tottenham squad is physically more prepared to last the course of a gruelling season ahead of the season, where Ange Postecoglou will be aiming to compete on all fronts despite their burnout at the end of last season. Let's hope that's the case, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about Archie Gray. The Telegraph says that there's a feeling within Spurs that Archie Gray is ready to help provide cover at right back this season, but will eventually develop into a top-class midfielder.
Yeah.
So do you think the plan is Archie Gray cover at right back, Spence cover at left back?
And if that is the case, then that makes room for a midfielder if we don't see Gray as a midfielder right now. So I think it does make sense. I'd rather, if we're keeping Spence, he's back up in his strongest position, which is right back. I actually think in a weird way, Gray might be more suited to left back than Spence is, in a weird way. Because I think when Gray cuts inside, I feel like he might be a bit more comfortable in those tighter spaces in Spence. And I think allowing Spence to play at right back where he can foray down the right wing and exploit the space in that way might be better. So I'd like to see us experiment with that. But I think this is what we predicted when we signed, or what I predicted when we signed, that Gray will be covered right back, and when he's got more experience and he's grown into his body a bit more and got a bit more physicality, then he'll be ready to really compete for those midfield positions. And I do assume he'll play in midfield in some games this year, but I think when it comes to big Premier League games and stuff like that, or when it comes to him rotating in the Premier League, I think he'll be playing more right back than he will in midfield. And it makes sense, and he can do that role to a good standard anyway, so I think it's good.
Yeah. Let's talk about Ashley Phillips. As Sky Sports reported yesterday that Getafe are among the clubs interested in Tottenham's Ashley Phillips on loan. I mean, it would be a surprise to me if he does go to Getafe. I would have expected quite a lot of English teams would be interested as well.
Getafe are a La Liga side, so that is very positive. I mean, all the English sides are supposed to be Championship. I'd probably rather him go to La Liga and play a top-level football than going to the Championship, where I know he played last season. He did really well. We know he can play there. La Liga is a different kettle of fish. It's a lot harder, albeit it's a different country, different kind of culture. So you could argue, having him stay in England might be better. But I'd be really interested to see if he goes to Getafe and plays regularly, how he gets on in top La Liga football, because that would be a really interesting challenge for him. So if there are no Premier League teams interested, I think Getafe is a good move. Yeah,
I mean, I agree. I'd rather him go to La Liga than the Championship. But I would have thought even some lower-end Premier League teams would have been interested in him.
I mean, he's very young. He's 19?
Yeah.
I've seen I think Southampton, I saw they signed a young a centre-back from Man City for about 24 million, but he's a bit older, maybe I don't know if he's a bit more experienced, but they signed him for big money, and they're going to play him. And they don't. I think Premier League teams aren't going to be loaning 19-year-old centre backs from other Premier League teams to give them experience. They're looking at survival.
True. Let's talk about the other youngsters at Spurs and what their future holds. Dan Kilpatrick says that Tottenham are expected to loan out youngsters Alfie Devine, Ashley Phillips and Jamie Donnelly before the end of the month, but Mikey Moore will be part of Ange Postecoglou's squad this season. Will Lancashire has also caught the eye in pre-season and could be loaned out, though Spurs are short of cover at centre-forward after a long season loan moves for Alejo Veliz and Dane Scarlett to Espanyol and Oxford, respectively. Tom Barkley says that Spurs are set to keep Mikey Moore at the club for this season rather than loan him out. Given he's only turned 17, the thinking is makes more sense to keep him close, learn from the senior pros and get minutes here and there. In terms of Will Lancashire, do you feel like we are short at number 9 if we loan Lancashire out?
No, I don't. I don't agree with that, because not only do we have Richarlison and Solanke, but we also have Decky, who's proven he can play that role if need be. Sonny's obviously played the number 9 and he scored a lot of goals there last season. Yes, we don't want him there predominantly. Doesn't mean he can't fill in that role if need be as well, because there's a player there who, when we're saying he wasn't his best position, he still scored 17 goals. So that's the quality of player we have who can fill in there. So I don't necessarily think we are short, but if Lancashire does stay, and I know Richarlison's struggling with fitness, he could fill in that role. I do expect him to get maybe some minutes in Europa League as well. But I don't agree that we're short in the number 9.
Well, if they only want to use Sonny in the left wing position and they want to keep that, that's his position for the whole season, they don't want to move him to number 9, then maybe it does make sense to keep Will Lancashire around, just when you look at Richarlison's injury record.
Maybe, but look, that's if Solanke and Richarlison are both going to be injured, then all of a sudden you're looking at Lancashire. Again, Decky can play that role as well. He's been playing there in pre-season and actually did pretty well, so he can be an option there. So I'm not saying we should definitely loan Lancashire out because of that. I'm just saying I don't agree with that statement that we're lacking in depth in that. What teams in the Premier League have more than 2 strikers?
Not many that I can think of.
Don't think any.
Man United just got Højlund and Xerxes. That's all they got. Arsenal
Havertz and Jesus, if you can call Havertz a striker.
Yeah.
Haaland is the only striker for City at the moment. Newcastle have Isaac and Wilson. No one has 2.
Long gone of the days of having Defoe, Bent, Berbatov and Keane in the same squad.
So I don't agree. I mean, unless he's the claim is every single team in the Premier League is lacking depth in the striker position. Like, I just don't see how we.
That does seem to be the claim.
I just don't agree with it. I don't agree. We are.
Let's focus on a few more outgoings. Let's talk about Sergio Reguilon. AS are reporting that Jose Mourinho has requested that Fenerbahce board sign Sergio Reguilon. Fenerbahce will face competition from Barcelona and Galatasaray to sign Tottenham's left back. We have heard a lot of links between Barcelona and Sergio Reguilon in the past few days. Does it make sense that Mourinho wants Reguilon? I can't remember the kind of feeling between the two. I know he broke the COVID rules and Mourinho weren't too happy about that, but that was just after he bought him that whole big thing of meat, wasn't it?
Yeah, the roasted ham. Obviously, he brought him to the club, and yeah, he had a pretty good start under Mourinho. And I think like the way Mourinho plays actually really suited Reguilon. I think that being that kind of left back who can get forward and also provide width. I think Reguilon likes being that kind of fullback, so I can understand the temptation. Obviously, if Barca are coming calling, I mean, if I'm Reguilon, you've got to jump at that chance because those kind of opportunities don't come around that often. So if the Barca interest is serious, I don't think he goes to Fenerbahce. But if that deal's off the table and he's struggling with options and he's got his old boss there, Mourinho, saying he wants to join, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets convinced.
Yeah. It's just important that someone takes him from now before the end of the window. Oliver Skipp, Footy Insider, says that Leicester are leading the race to sign Tottenham midfielder Ollie Skipp. Fellow Premier League newcomers Ipswich are also pushing to sign the 23-year-old before the transfer deadline on the 31st of August. I just can't see us letting him go with the club train quota that we talked about yesterday. I just can't see us letting him go.
I mean, if we let him go, the squad size gets reduced to 23 players, so we'll be limited to a squad of 23, unless the thought is you sell Skipp and you bring in, I don't know, Kyle Walker-Peters, I guess would be the only option, and then you can fill out the squad that way.
Marcus Edwards.
Or Marcus Edwards, but unless the thought process, look, at the moment we've got 28 players for a squad of 24. If we let Skipp go, we'll have 27 players for a squad of 23. In a weird way, we're in a very similar position. Just the squad size is reduced, but that squad place would have only gone to Ollie Skipp anyway. So if he surplus the requirements, it doesn't change that much. It just means the squad size is reduced, and we lose the ability to use Skipp if we need him as a midfield option. But if we lose Skipp, it still means we have to sell another 5 to get one signing in.
Yeah. So would you be in favour of selling him, or would you rather keep him at the club?
I'll let the club decide. I mean, I don't think he's massively needed because I think the midfield is very much... the midfield is like we've filled out those positions really well. We've got a lot of options. I guess if we want to sign a midfielder, if we sell Skipp and then we sell another 6 players on top of him, maybe we can fit in a winger and a midfielder. But I don't see him getting that much game time. That's the problem. Albeit, what I will say is, I think he's actually been pretty good in pre-season. I've been pretty impressed with him. So if he's looking to impress Ange and show him that he could have a role to play, I think he's done okay in pre-season, albeit he's played quite a bit in centre-back. But it depends how much the offer is, I guess, from Leicester. I think I'd probably rather keep him. But if he's desperate to sell, then is what it is. It actually doesn't change. It does reduce the squad size, but as I say, that space was only going to Skipp anyway, so it doesn't change that much.
I guess, like, if he is desperate to leave to go and get a starting role somewhere, it probably is the right thing just to let him go. That's the reality. Yeah. Let's talk about Sergi Roberto, former Barcelona player. Mundo Deportivo says that Tottenham held talks with Sergio Roberto about signing him as a free agent after he left Barcelona. However, the talks did not progress, and now West Ham are in contention to sign the versatile midfielder. Would you have taken Sergi Roberto at the club?
I mean, he wouldn't have been my first choice. Obviously, he's an experienced player now, been at Barca for many years. I know he's played midfield, he can play right back. He's never really nailed down a spot in any certain position, I feel, at Barca. He's always been a kind of fill-in kind of player, very similar to maybe what Archie Gray might be for us this season. I don't know. I mean, you don't last at Barca that long if you're a bad player. I don't think he's a bad player, but I think he's old now. He's
32.
He's 32. I don't see where he fits in at Tottenham for sure. So I don't think that really makes a lot of sense.
Telegraph are reporting that Ange Postecoglou would have ideally liked to team Dominic Solanke with Conor Gallagher, but Chelsea never quoted Spurs less than £45 million, despite agreeing to sell him to Atletico Madrid for £33.7 million.
Well,
I mean, 45 million is not exactly the worst price.
No, I don't think so. If you really want him, and especially
Exactly. If Ange is saying, like, I really want this guy, and then Chelsea are quoting 45 million for a Chelsea boy, club captain last season, like, surely you just go and get that done.
Well, the problem is he wants to be
top earner.
And are we going to give him that? Does he deserve to be that? Probably not. And I don't know, like, all of a sudden he comes in and he's earning more than any of our other midfielders. Does he deserve that? Probably
but
not.
I get that. That's that half of it, but I'm talking about just the club's kind of negotiations of the side of it.
45 million is not bad.
Surely, if Ange really wants him, and that's the price that Chelsea are quoting, you just go and do it. Like, I mean, we spent 65 million on. We spent north 60 million on Richarlison, 50 million on Brennan Johnson, 60 million on Dominic Solanke. Surely Gallagher's worth 45 million.
I mean, I don't think 45 million is outrageous. There's only also 8 million difference to what Atletico played. Obviously, they're going to put a premium up when it's a Premier League rival and also a direct rival from them as well, a London rival. So it makes sense that he's going to be more expensive to sell to us than abroad. That's usually how these things work. And I think an 8 million premium is not actually that bad compared to what I probably would have expected.
Yeah, exactly. Last but not least, we're going to talk about Nico Williams. The Telegraph reported that Ange Postecoglou was understanding that a move for Nico Williams was never particularly realistic. Tottenham were one of the clutch of clubs to inquire of the conditions of a deal, and would be told that the winger's £50 million release clause would only be triggered in a one-off immediate payment. So no surprises why we didn't try and do that.
I mean, for me, he's that one similar to like Eze. He's just one of these players where if there's an opportunity, you just got to try and snatch it with both hands. 50 million, obviously, is a big outlay to do it all up front, but I mean, I would love him through the door. He would be such a game changer for us on the wing. He is such an exciting player, and it's one of those where, like, if you don't get him while you can, you're going to regret missing out on him 100%. So if it means stumping up that 50 million, I mean, as a fan, I want us to do it, of course. I want Spurs to show that ambition. I know things aren't always like that, and Spurs are never going to kind of stump up that kind of money in one go, which is a shame, even though we probably could afford to do it. But that's the reality of how the clubs run and the transfer window and how these transfers happen. But I would just love the idea of Nico Williams at Tottenham, but unfortunately we're probably never going to see it.
Yeah, I guess if, we were running the club on Football Manager, things would be different, eh?
Probably bust, but yeah.
Not with your frugal ideas. But that is your Tottenham update. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below of the transfer business that Spurs are potentially going to do from now until the end of the window. We've got a super chat here from Killen saying, a heads up, please look into Alexander Anderson from Bromkiniana, the same academy as Bergwijn and Kulusevski. He's the next big superstar. Let's add to the Swedish mafia.
Yeah, why not? I mean, the Swedes are working out very well at the moment, so I definitely think the more Swedes, the better at the moment. Maybe get Gyökeres in there as well. Elanga's from Forest, so get a Swedish mafia going.
Yeah, I'm bang up for that. But for the last segment of...
Before we go, there's just a couple things I want to clarify with FanTeam. It's in terms of getting the free no deposit game, you do have to register by the end of Thursday, and then the free ticket will be provided by midday Friday. So you don't have up until midday Friday. You have to sign up.
It's midnight, I think, Thursday night.
Is that 12 p.m. Oh, so midnight Thursday, yeah. You have to sign up by then, and the ticket will be provided by midday Friday. So if you do want to get the free no deposit game where you can actually play FPL essentially and win money, then you do need to sign up before the end of Thursday, by midnight Thursday.
All right, so be in it to win it, guys. Come and take us on the FanTeam website. But let's move on to the last segment of the live stream, and we're going to be talking about our pre-season predictions for the Premier League. And I probably want to jump out of that window right now when I'm about to give you my predictions, but let's give them anyway. Premier League winners. Sim's gone for Man City.
Who else? Who else is there? What other choice do I have? Who else could possibly win the Premier League?
I feel so dirty with that team next to my name. I really do.
First of all, he puts 3 Gooners in his EPL team. What has happened to you? What has happened?
I just can't see Man City win the league this year.
Can't you? They've won it 4 in a row.
Exactly. That's why I can't see it.
Well, you probably couldn't see them winning 4.
Yeah.
If they can win 4, they can win 5.
Look, I hope and pray they do win it. I really do. But I just feel like something bad is happening this season.
Jeez, the chat is coming on. The chat is not happy. Look, Man City, I'm hoping that their business isn't done for the window. They've just sold Alvarez, so I reckon there's another potentially big signing coming in for them.
I think it could be Eze, you know.
Maybe, look, if it's Eze, that'll be a great signing. At the time of recording, Arsenal have only added Calafiori. Obviously, Moreno's been linked. Is Calafiori enough to bridge the gap between them and Man City? I don't know. I'm not convinced. Man City are just a machine. They're also adding new blood, Man City, into their team, and Oscar Bob, Savinho. So a bit of a fresh energy in that team as well, alongside those experienced heads. Pep just knows how to get the job done. He's been there before. When it comes to crunch time, Pep, you just know that they're just going to be a steam train, Man City. Arsenal show shades of, getting to that level, but I'm just not, like, they need, Saka to have the same season in terms of goals scored he had last season. They need big output from Havertz again. Is Havertz going to be able to step up again like he did last season? I'm just going to put my money on Man City again, in my opinion.
Let's hope you're right. But, they ran Man City really close last year. And, I can see a lot of people not very happy with me in the chat. And I can understand why. I can completely understand why. I'm not happy with myself either, to be fair. But, I just feel like something bad is going to is coming for Man City, whether it be a point deduction, whether it be a relegation, whether it be something. I feel like something's coming for Man City, and I feel like Arsenal are going to be the next in line. You feel like Arsenal are going to finish second?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I think their defence. What's really going to keep them going, I think, is how frugal their defence is. I think Calafiori will obviously shore that up, and just how good they are at set pieces, and that goes a long way. Set pieces is actually so crucial because it just means in games where you're not playing that well and you're struggling to create chances, you can just always rely on set pieces, and that's what they've been doing. And
16 goals this pre-season, 14 set pieces,
and that's very important, and that's very crucial way, and it's a clever strategy because. So there will be games where you don't get the rub of the green. Maybe you'll miss a few chances. Maybe you won't get the chances from open play. But what happens in every single game, essentially, is you do get set pieces. You'll get corners in every game. You'll get free kicks in every game. And if you're really good in those situations, then it's going to stand you in good stead. And Man City are also very good at set pieces. That's also a big part of
it's not just that. I mean, they just don't concede goals and chances as well. And Calafiori added to that. I think Calafiori is going to be a massive signing for them. I think he's such a good player. I mean, we were waxing lyrical about him. We pretty much stopped as soon as he was linked to Arsenal. But before that, we were saying he's the perfect signing for us. He's a top player. He's going to be, one of the best hybrid left centre backs in European football at the moment.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's a good signing. Is it enough to bridge the gap to Man City, especially if Man City make 1 or 2 more signings down the end of the window? I'm not convinced it is.
Yeah. But right now they haven't made those signings, so we don't know.
Even without those signings, I mean, they don't necessarily need them. I mean, I still think they've got a better team than Arsenal.
Let's hope so. Let's go on to the FA Cup winners. Sim has gone for Newcastle.
Yeah, you know what? I've got a feeling about Newcastle because they're not in Europe this year. They're just like Spurs. They're desperate for this trophy drought to end. They've got a really solid team at the moment. And I think when push comes to shove at the end of the season, when the FA Cup, when there's big draws in the FA Cup, I think they've got the capability, especially under Eddie Howe, to step up and really give big teams a good game. And
you don't think Spurs do?
Huh? But Spurs are in Europe. That's my point.
I see.
The Newcastle are not. They can put all their energy into this FA Cup, right? And they could really go for it. And I think that's going to really stand them in good stead near the end of the season. And I've got a feeling if they don't get if they're not in the top 4 race, I reckon it could potentially be Eddie Howe's final season. And I think that in the weird way that could really give them extra motivation in this competition. And I think no European football is going to really benefit them. And I think they've got a really good team that on their day they can give anyone a game. And if they're hyped up for this competition, I've just got a sneaky feeling they might take it. So I've gone for Newcastle.
Yeah, I've gone for Liverpool. Obviously, they did win the Carabao Cup last season. Where did they get in the FA Cup last season? Like semis,
Liverpool.
Quarters to Man United, wasn't it?
Yeah, Man United, yeah.
In the quarters. So I feel like Arne Slot's first season, there is something about managers joining these big clubs and winning cups in their first season. You look at Ten Hag won a cup in his first season. Arteta won a cup in his first season. So I feel like with the football that Arne Slot likes to play, he's going to take time to I think it will take time for Liverpool to adjust to life under Arne Slot. By the time the FA Cup comes around, I feel like they could be, due a really big cup run. And the FA Cup is the perfect opportunity for Liverpool to really, I think, have a good season under Arne Slot. Because I don't think they're winning the league. I do think they'll get top 4, but I feel like, they'll make a charge for it in the second half of the season, and that's when the FA Cup comes around. So I've gone for Liverpool to win the FA Cup. Carabao Cup, Sim has gone for Liverpool.
Yeah, because the reason being is I actually think they might burn out a bit at the end of the season, a bit similar to last season. They haven't made any signings yet this summer, albeit they have got a very good squad anyway. They don't necessarily need any new signings to be competitive, but I have a feeling that they're going to have a really strong first half of the season. I can see them really blowing a few teams away and being really fresh, and I think that's why I've got them to win the Carabao Cup, because that's going to really benefit them in the first half of the season. And I reckon second half they might burn out a bit. That's why I haven't gone them to win the FA Cup, and I've gone for a team not in Europe to win the FA Cup, which is Newcastle. So I've gone for Liverpool to have a better first half of the season, and that's why I've gone for them to win the Carabao.
So we've gone for the exact opposite. I've gone for them to have a better second half. You've gone for them to have a better first half. I have gone for Tottenham to win the Carabao Cup, and I think it's about time Spurs win a trophy. Last time it has been 2008. I don't have, too much reasoning or thinking behind it apart from just Spurs need a trophy, and the Carabao Cup is probably the most likely outcome. When you're looking at Tottenham, and the way we went out the Carabao Cup last year in the second round to Fulham, I think Ange will look at that and really want to, right those wrongs a little bit. And I feel like Spurs could be coming home with a trophy this season.
Lou, I think we're all hoping you're correct.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Maybe in one aspect anyway.
Yeah, I will look any trophy. I think all of us would take that. Well, if it's the Carabao Cup, so be it. I'll take it for 100%.
Overachievers of the season. We've both gone for our East London neighbours in West Ham. They have had very impressive business this year. I said to Sim off camera, I think it was yesterday, that I feel like West Ham could gain the most points from where they were last season. You look at the transfer business that they've done, it's incredible, really. Tadibo, Kilman at the back, Somerville, Fulkrig. They've got some serious talent in there in this transfer window, on top of the talent that they already have with Jarrod Bowen, Mohamed Kudus, Lucas Paquetá. They look like a serious outfit, and under Lopetegui as well. So I feel like they could be the overachievers.
Yeah, I'm going for we'll see in my 1 to 20, but I'm going for them to have a really good season. And I've been really impressed with their business. Their squad building is really impressive. Maybe they could do with one more potential striker to battle with Fulkrig, albeit Antonio is a good player anyway, so he could maybe give competition. But I think every signing has been really impressive. And I'm looking at our 11 now, and that 11 is really taking shape. And that 11 is definitely, quality-wise, comparable to a lot of these teams that everyone has a shoe-in for the top 6, 100%. And you add into that Lopetegui, a bit more of a modern manager, forward-thinking manager. I think it's a super impressive summer for West Ham. And look, you could argue maybe it will take a bit of time for it all to gel, but I'm just looking at the 11, and I think as well everyone's pulling in the same direction. The whole Moyes thing, everyone was like, the whole fan base was split, Moyes in, Moyes out. That's now out of the way as well. Everyone is super excited. The whole West Ham fan base are together, and that could be a dangerous thing. So I've got a feeling they could overachieve here.
All right. And we move on to the underachievers of the season. Sim has gone for Chelsea.
Yep. I just think, looking at the whole Chelsea project at the moment, Maresca's got really little experience. I think the signings they've made, look, in terms of their actual first 11, it's not bad, but obviously they're in European football. I think their attention's going to be split. I also think a lot of their signings are very haphazard. They've just signed lots and lots of players, and they keep signing new players. It's like they're addicted to signing that dopamine rush of signing a player, I feel, for Chelsea at the moment. And I don't know if that can kind of harness a good team spirit, the way they conduct themselves in the transfer market. That's the main thing for me. Look, if you're looking at Chelsea's team, it's a good team, but if you're looking at their team over the last few seasons, right, they've struggled really badly. And it's not because they don't have good players. It's because the whole thing is not smoothly, the whole project is not being run properly from the top, and I think that's continuing. I've got big question marks about Maresca as well. I'm not certain he's going to be the answer for Chelsea. And I'm not certain as well, if he starts to struggle, they're not going to be very quick to sack him, because unlike other managers, like a Pochettino or whatever, he doesn't really have a massive CV to fall back on. So if things start going wrong, it's very easy to...
And Poch couldn't even fall back on that CV anyway.
I know, but at least he lasted the season. But, if let's say Poch, right, he had a lot of difficulty, like first half of the season, he was like 12th at some point, and it only took at the back end of last season to have a really good run, and he got to that back end. But let's say Maresca have the similar problems. Will he make it to the back end of the season?
I don't think he does.
That's the thing. I think I reckon they would be quicker to pull the trigger. So he has to really hit the ground running a bit, I feel, Maresca. And I've got big question marks. I reckon they could drop down the table here.
I think their biggest mistake was getting rid of Pochettino. He was finally onto a good thing there. Finally hit some form. Finally looking like they were putting a team together. And then they sacked him. Biggest mistake Chelsea could have done, because Maresca ain't lasting the season. But do you think they have a worse season than they did last year?
I've got a feeling so. Yeah, because I just don't know if they're going to be able to harness that team spirit, which I think a lot of teams have. And I'm looking at the other projects. I just have a bit more faith in a lot of the other projects at the moment than they do in this Chelsea one. I think it's a bit all over the place.
Well, I've gone for Man City to be the underachievers of the season. And seeing as I think they're going to get relegated, then it has to be the underachievers of the season. So Man City, if they don't win the league, it's a massive underachievement for them. So I've gone for them to be the underachievers of the season. Let's look at our player awards, and I pretty much basically should just walk out the studio right now.
Odegaard
has gone. Why does this keep happening? Yeah, I think we're back. Sorry about that, guys, but we did go under for a second, but we are back. Back to our player awards. Sim has gone for Rodri for player of the season. I've gone for Martin Odegaard. Once again, feel very dirty saying Martin Odegaard, but I feel like he had a very strong second half of the season. I have predicted for the Scum to win the league, and if they do, I feel like he is going to be very central to that top player.
I think Rodri was absolutely robbed last season for Player of the Year. I think the fact he wasn't nominated was a disgrace. He was head and shoulders the best player in the league, and I think if they win this league again, I think he will not be overlooked. It's impossible for him to be overlooked again, and I reckon he'll win the Player of the Year if Man City continue in the vein, which I'm expecting them to do.
Can't win Player of the Year if they get relegated.
If they get relegated, he can't. But I think the charges won't lead to a relegation. So,
what do you think they will lead to?
Anyone's guess. Might well lead to relegation, but I reckon it will be like maybe a points deduction, maybe a transfer ban. I reckon that there's some reports saying there's going to be some wins and some losses for Man City. It's not going to be all losses. So I don't know. Look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the case. I don't know what to expect. This is unprecedented territory, but knowing very expensive lawyers, how they usually come about, I'm going to say that Man City don't get relegated.
Young player of the season, Sim has gone for Bob.
Oscar Bob.
Interesting one.
Yeah, I think he's been really exciting in pre-season. I think he was really good in the Community Shield. He got a really good assist late on as well. He's really starting to show that he can actually be a starter for Man City, in my opinion. He actually showed kind of glimpses of it last season. If you remember, he scored that winner at St James's Park, I think midway through the season, and he was really contributing. And I think he's really ready to make the step up, and I've been so impressed with him. And I reckon if he gets the game time, he could really push for Young Player of the Season. So I've gone for Oscar Bob.
Would you think he will get the game time with the players that Man City have?
Yeah. I mean, who else is on the right wing right now? You've got Savio, who signed. Doku and Grealish are mostly on the left. I mean, they don't really have a proper right. I think, and the reports are, it's going to be Bob and Savio competing for that right wing spot. And if that is true, I think he will definitely get the game time.
Interesting. I mean, Savio looks like a proper player as well. So it'll be a one almighty battle, that's for sure. I've gone for Bukayo Saka. Less said, the better.
Unbelievable, this
But
guy.
yeah, I think Saka obviously been one of the stars of the Premier League last couple of years. And I envisage him to do it again, unfortunately.
He's going to flop this year.
Let's hope so.
He's going to flop.
Why didn't you put him in biggest flop? He just won't be the biggest flop.
He's not going to be the biggest flop. He's just going to be a flop. Look, Saka's obviously a great player, and he's, 22. He's still scoring goals regularly. He's got 16 goals last season. He just keeps coming up to the fore for Arsenal, so I'm sure he's definitely going to be in with a shout. If Arsenal do win the league, he's going to have a big shout for sure.
Yeah, thanks for taking that one for me, because I can't keep explaining why Arsenal are going to do well and Arsenal players are going to do well.
You've made your bed.
I need to keep vaping.
Show us the Arsenal tattoo.
Shut up, guys. Biggest flop. Sim's gone for Dewsbury Hall.
Dewsbury Hall. Look, I think the Chelsea project isn't one which I've got a lot of faith in, and I think Dewsbury Hall's a good little player. And Maresca knows him well, but a few things. I don't think Maresca. I've got a feeling Maresca might not last the season, and I think I'm looking at their midfield. I don't know if there's a natural place for him. If they're going to play Caicedo, Enzo, and then maybe Palmer in the 10. You've got Neto there now. You've got Nkunku, who could also play in the 10. I don't see where Dewsbury Hall's really fitting in. Is he good enough to play? When he does play, is he good enough to keep his place in the team? I don't know. I think Dewsbury Hall's been a decent player for Leicester, don't get me wrong. I just think that when it comes to the step up to Chelsea, I reckon there'll be a lot of knives out from Chelsea fans for him, and I feel like he might flop.
Yeah, I think he's a downgrade on what they had, in Conor Gallagher in Dewsbury Hall.
He's a downgrade on Mason Mount from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like
he's a good player, and he had a good year in the Championship, but that's never really... I mean, he's had years in the Premier League before, and he's had okay seasons, but nothing great.
Is he? Yeah, he's good, but is he Chelsea good? I don't know.
What is Chelsea good these days?
Yeah, it's also a good question.
I've gone for Darwin Núñez as a flop for Liverpool. I feel like as well this could be his last year in a Liverpool shirt. I think he hasn't had the greatest of pre-seasons when he has played. He's played with the kind of second team, with Jota used in the first team as the number 9. And I'm just not sure if Arne Slot fancies him too much, and I feel like that might get into his head a little bit. And when he plays, he's a very emotional player, and I feel like if he's not fancied, I feel like when he does play, it could get into his head, and he just basically keeps doing those crazy misses and not scores too many goals this season.
Potentially. I don't know how much he's played in pre-season. Obviously, he was at the Copa. Jota's been playing in the number 9 and looking really good in pre-season for Liverpool. I'm a bit of a believer in Núñez. I think he's one of these players who, once he starts scoring goals consistently, if he can get there, I think there's no stopping him. But it's always been these misses that have held him back. But he's still young enough that he can get past that. And I think he's got so much quality. He's got everything you want in a striker. So it'll be up to Slot to get the best out of him. But we'll see. We'll see if he does that.
Best signing of the season. We've both gone for the same player in Dominic Solanke, and the most expensive player that has been bought in the Premier League this season. I'm looking at the signings that other teams have made, and I just can't think of anyone that's going to be, have as much of an impact as Dominic Solanke.
Yeah, I was going through the signings. I do think there have been some good signings from a lot of teams this summer. A lot of smart signings, but I just can't see a more perfect fit than Solanke to Spurs in terms of what we're looking for, what he is, his stage of his career, exactly what Tottenham are missing. It's just a perfect fit. It's the perfect hole being filled here by Solanke. So I think it is going to be the best signing of the summer. I think as well, if you look at the top teams, I mean, Calafiori is obviously a good signing, but they've already got the best defence in the league anyway. Man City, I've signed Savinho. He's a youngster. I mean, he might take some time to bed in. Liverpool have yet to make a signing. I'm just looking at the signings for big money or the big signings, and I just can't see a more perfect fit than Solanke, to be honest.
Yeah, Man U have made some decent signings with Xerxes, Mazraoui and De Ligt. I
don't know if, De Ligt, I like De Ligt, don't get me wrong, But, he didn't last that long at Juve. He's been shipped out by Bayern fairly quickly as well. I know
Apparently a lot of Bayern fans are unhappy about that. They're saying, why have we let go of our best centre-back?
Yeah, maybe he is. But there's, they've agreed to let him go for one reason or another. I mean, he's also not been that great for them from what I've seen. I mean, I know he's a good player, and I'm sure he'll be good for Man United. I'm sure he'll improve them. But if you're expecting... I mean, I guess he's still young enough to really improve. He's still, 24, 25. So he's got a lot of time on his side. And I'd obviously, if Tottenham were to sign him, I'd be like super excited. But I don't know if you're expecting to sign this world-class centre-back, which everyone thought he would be at like 17, 18. He hasn't quite lived up to that just yet. But he's still got time to make that step. I don't know if it's like going to be the perfect... Xerxes was good for Bologna, scored a few goals, but... I mean, he's nowhere near.
The lit is still a massive upgrade on what they've let go and what they've had last season. So I think Man United, I think those signings are like filling holes which they've needed from the gaps that they had last season. So
Todibo might be a shout. Todibo might be a shout for West Ham.
Fulkrug could be as well.
Fulkrug might be, but I think Todibo, he is one who really should have been going to like one of the top 6 clubs, really. And the fact that West Ham have got him is a major coup, in my opinion. Major coup.
Let's move on to surprise package of the season. Sim's gone for Weaver.
Weaver from Brighton. I'm a massive fan of his.
We've both gone for Brighton players.
I really wanted Spurs to get him. I thought it'd be perfect for our midfield, but I remember...
Who did he come from?
Feyenoord. And he was really good for Feyenoord last season. I think he's a really good technical player, really good physicality as well. I think a lot of people are going to look at him now that I think he's really going to help replace what Pascal Gross gave them as well. And I think Billy Gilmore might be out the door. I think he's going to have a really good season. I reckon after this season, a lot of top clubs will be looking at him, in my opinion. So I've gone for him to be a bit of a surprise package.
Yeah, and I've gone for Minte of Brighton as well. They signed him off Newcastle this summer, and a lot of Newcastle fans were very disappointed that they let go one of their stars of the academy. And I've seen a bit of him in pre-season, and he looks incredible. He's had a lot of goal contributions, a very tricky winger, fast, got bags of pace, got bags of tricks as well. And I feel like as well, some big Premier League teams after this season might be in for him.
And he got 16 goal contributions for Feyenoord last year. So, I mean, this guy, he was in my thinking, but I just went for Weaver, but Minter as well. He looks like a real prospect.
Yeah. Golden Boot, we've both gone for Erling Haaland. I think that's probably the easiest one of the
relegation in a Golden Boot.
Yeah, basically.
Erling Haaland. Yeah, I mean, how can you not? He plays for Man City. It's just, he's probably going to be top goal scorer whenever, as long as he's in that team. So, yeah, I just couldn't look past Erling Haaland. How can you?
Yeah, you can't. You just can't. The amount of chances that Man City make, and he's on the end of all of them. And he had a poor season last year and got 27 goals.
Last season he scored 27, but he was Golden Boot by 4 or 5 goals, and he underperformed his XG by about 8.
Yeah.
So that goes to show how much. Like, he actually had some. If you look at some of his misses last year, he had some mad misses.
I know.
And he's still like way top goal scorer.
Even the season before, when he scored 36 or whatever it was, he had some mad misses.
So just imagine if he can cut those out of his game. Like, he's going to be.
He doesn't even need to cut them out of his game to win Golden Boot.
I know, that's what's mad about it. He's got so much scope to get more goals. It's crazy.
Playmaker of the year, most assists. Sim's gone for Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, I've got a feeling a lot of teams are working on set pieces, and I think he takes a lot of set pieces for Man United. I've been really impressed with him. I thought he had a really good end to the season last season. I thought for the last 10 games or so, he was really getting back to his best after what was by and large not the best season from him. And I thought in the Euros he looked pretty good. I thought in the Community Shield he looked really sharp and electric. I think Man United have improved some of their signings and the team dynamic, but he's kind of a player that he's not going to be rotated. They're so reliant on him. He plays every game. He takes set pieces. He's so good at those deep assists as well. I've just got a feeling he could have a really good season. So I've gone for Bruno to be the playmaker.
Yeah, I've actually gone for Mohamed Salah, and with him aging a little bit, what was he, 32 years of age now? I feel like his role is changing a little bit into more of a creator. He obviously does still score a significant amount of goals, but I feel like this season he could get a hell of a load of assists with a lot of runners around him, and he got quite a good number of assists last year, in 9 or 10 assists, and I feel like he could get even more this year in a very fast-paced Liverpool side that are going to attack loads and score loads of goals. So, yeah, I think it could be Mo Salah. Interestingly enough. But that is our player predictions. Let's move on and look at our 1 to 20 in the Premier League, and let's go to the bottom 10 first. Sim's gone for Southampton bottom. I've gone for Man City bottom.
Man City, the Charges. I mean, yeah, it's difficult. I feel like Ipswich will go just one level above. I'm looking at the Southampton team and they look decent. Russell Martin, though, is still quite a new manager. Do they have the firepower to stay up? It's tough. I mean, looking at the newly promoted teams, which one's going to stay up? I mean, I just found it too difficult to decide if any of them will. So, kind of gone for all three of them to go down. But yeah, I've gone for Southampton to be bottom.
I've gone for Man City bottom, 115 charges. Justice is coming in January, February, albeit...
It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing, I know. But justice is still coming. Yeah. What else can I say about it? Man City going to finish bottom of the league and going to be chucked out the division.
Well, do you think... Oh, so if they're automatically relegated... Does that mean they finish 20th, or is it that they just like get chucked out the league kind of thing?
I think they'll be moved to bottom of the league.
Or is it because if they get a points deduction, I still back them to stay up?
Yeah, well, it depends how many points that they get deducted. It could be like a crazy amount of points, but I think if they get chucked out the league, they'll finish bottom because the teams that finish 18th and 19th, the team that finishes 18th won't go down, will they?
Yeah, I guess so.
Or 17th, well, 18th. Yeah.
Will they get relegated to League Two though? Championship?
I don't know. It's just a crazy situation, isn't it? It's an absolutely mad situation. But maybe they won't get relegated. I more put it in there as a bit of fun. But I feel like something's coming their way. Whether it be a heavy deduction or a relegation, I think it was one of the two.
Guess we'll have to wait and see. So the other two teams, you've gone for Southampton and Leicester. Yeah,
I've gone for Leicester. I think points deduction is coming their way as well. So I feel like they'll finish bottom out of everyone apart from Man City. They've got a fairly good team there. Dewsbury Hall has left, which he was massive for them last year. But with the points deduction, I can't see them finishing above anyone else.
Also, I think Steve Cooper's a big difference to Maresca. Very different football. They're going to have to get used to that. Also, Vardy's obviously massively aging, doesn't really have the firepower he used to. Patton Daka, he's not really done it in the Premier League since he's been here, so I can understand putting them there as well.
Yeah, Ipswich. Well, you've gone for Leicester, Ipswich. I've gone for Southampton, Leicester.
Yeah, so I've got Ipswich to still go down. Although Ipswich have had a fairly impressive summer. Hutchinson through the door, Liam Delap as well. Some good signings. And also they're riding this wave of back-to-back promotion. So I can definitely see them as well. They've got some good players. At the left back, Davis is a really good player. So I can definitely see them. I think early on in the season, I reckon they'll ride that wave a bit. It might have a good start to the season, but I think the quality might catch up. A bit like Luton, I think the quality might catch up with them, and I feel like they'll still get relegated. And I feel bad. I feel awful like putting the three promoted clubs relegated again, just like last season. But I mean, I'm just struggling to see them surpassing the teams at the moment currently in the Premier League. It's just very, very competitive.
Yeah, in 17th, just missing out on relegation, you went for Brentford. I went for Nottingham Forest, and I feel like, obviously, if the thing doesn't happen with Man City, I think Forest go down this season. I just haven't been impressed with their business. They spent 40 million on Elliot Anderson, and yeah, he had a good pre-season last year for Newcastle, but I haven't seen anything else to suggest that he's worth anything close to 40 million. And, they escaped the drop last year in the last 3-4 weeks of the season. And I feel they could be going this year.
So I've gone for Brentford. I feel like, obviously, depending on if Tony stays or not, a lot of Tony still might go out the door, but it looks like he might be staying there. Replacement for him is injured. They haven't re-signed too many other players. It's Fabio Carvalho is not a bad signing, I guess. So that's something to be excited about. But I thought last season they did really well to stay in the league. but they were quite reliant on Mbeumo, and they definitely struggled in that period when Tony and Mbeumo were out injured, and they were very reliant on them being fit. So if Tony does leave and it's just on Mbeumo's shoulders, I feel like there could be a long season for them. I
got Wissa as well.
Wissa, he's in talks with Wolves.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, it's just breaking news. So if they lose him as well, they'll be in real trouble. So I feel like with Brentford, like every season they stay in the league is a big achievement, but at some point it might run out. I think they might just stay in the league for another season, but I do see them treading water a bit.
Yeah, I actually think Brentford are going to have an all right season. I think they actually last season they had a lot of bad results, but they actually played well in a lot of them. And if it went the other way, I think it was just bad luck sometimes why they lost a few games. And I feel like this was even before Tony came back. So I feel Brentford could have a good season. Thomas Frank, is a good manager, and I reckon he'll sort it out.
I think 17th would be a great achievement for them.
A great achievement.
Yeah, because how many years in the Premier League would that be? 5 years?
Is it 5 already? 3, no?
The 2021. They promoted 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. So this will be their 4th season in the league. And I think that's really, for a size like Brentford, you've got to look at the clubs they're competing with who are in the Championship, like people like Leeds, big clubs. And it's as I say, I think every season they stay in the league is a big achievement, in my opinion.
All right, next up, 16th, I've gone for Ipswich. Sim's gone for Wolves. I think Ipswich do stay up this year. I've been impressed with their business. I like the way they play football. They got a really good manager there as well. And yeah, I feel they stay up.
Yeah, I've gone for Wolves. Losing Pedro Neto is a big loss. I know he's injured a lot, but I still think he's a really important player for them. I'm looking at some of the business they've done. I'm not sure if the business is enough to satiate that, although Worcester would be a pretty good signing to replace Neto, I guess, but he's more of a forward than a winger that like Neto was. Obviously losing Kilman as well at the back, he's such a big player for them. At centre-back, I've looked at their business, they haven't really replaced him either. So I think he will be a big miss. But Gary Neal is a very good manager, and I think with the likes of Cunha and Hwang, if they can stay fit, they should have enough just to stave off relegation. But I can see them having a bit of a struggle this season and maybe going down a couple places. So I've got them in 16th.
In 15th, I have gone for Fulham. You've gone for Nottingham Forest. For me, João Palhinha is just going to be a massive, massive loss for Fulham. And yeah, I know Marco Silva is a very good manager and people kind of write him off and write Fulham off every single year. But I don't think they've signed anyone that can fill the void of João Palhinha. Like, he's a top player, one of the best CDMs last year and the year before in the Premier League. They have signed Emil Smith-Rowe, Ryan Sessegnon, and Cuenca, but they haven't signed a defensive midfielder. And I think that's got to ring alarm bells for them.
And if they don't, I mean, obviously they'll linked with a few, but if they don't get one, they'll struggle. I've gone for Forest because I like Forest. I think I'm looking at their team again. Elanga, Awioni, Wood. They've still got Gibbs White. He hasn't gone anywhere as well. Obviously, Milenkovic is, I think, a really good signing at centre-back as well. So I think they'll be all right for relegation. Obviously, they signed Elliot Anderson for big money. I'm not sure how smart that is, but we'll see how much game time he does get. They've still got some good centre-mids like Danilo in there as well. So I think they've just got enough quality to be
Nuno's
okay.
still their manager.
Nuno is still their manager.
I don't think he lasts the season.
That's the thing. That's one of the problems, I think. I reckon... I don't think he improved them that much. I think Cooper could probably done what Nuno did last season, to be honest, in terms of the points he got. So I think they've got the quality to stay in the league. I'm not certain about Nuno, but if they sack him mid-season, I think they've got the squad. I think they've got a squad where a new manager can get them a bounce and keep them up anyway. So I think if I'm looking at their quality, I think they've got more quality than the teams below them that I've put below them. So I've got them in 15th.
Next up, in 14th, I've gone for Wolves. Sim's gone for Bournemouth. I just really like Gary O'Neill. I think he's a really good manager. I think he's proved it year in, year out since the Bournemouth job. And yeah, 14th isn't exactly the best, but I think after losing Pedro Neto, your star player, I think 14th will be very respectful for them.
And I've gone for Bournemouth. I think losing Solanke is a massive, massive miss for them. I think he was so big. To get a striker in the bottom half scoring 19 goals, that doesn't come often. And I think he's going to be a massive miss. But I think Unal was decent when he played. I really like the signing of Heisen from Juventus.
They're going to sign a striker though, Bournemouth.
If they do sign we'll see who they sign, but I doubt they'll sign a striker who's going to score 19 goals.
No, 100%.
I really like the signing of Haisan, and I think the main thing is the manager. I love Iraola. I think he's really good at making the team better than the sum of its parts, and I think he will be good enough to keep them, up the lower half of the table. I don't think there'll be any danger of relegation. I don't know. I just see them. I think Solanke is such a big miss. I can see them dropping a couple of places. So I've got them in 14th, but I still think if they replace Solanke effectively, they could be pushing top half potentially. But I think they're going to struggle to do that.
Yeah, we move on to 13th. We've both said Everton, and I think you went for them to get relegated last year, or maybe just about avoid it. I think Sean Dyche has done a really good job there, and if it wasn't for the points deduction, they would have finished there or thereabouts in the top half of the kind of bottom half. And I think it will be business as usual for Everton. I think they'll keep it tight at the back. They won't concede many goals. They probably won't score many goals either. But I think they're probably better than every team that I've put under them.
Yeah, the only problem with them is they have lost Onana, who was obviously a big player for them, albeit there were some games he was left out last season, but I still think he's a big player in that central midfield. They've still got Idrissa Gueye and James Garner, but they'll probably want another body in there. I do like their signings, though. Jesper Lindstrom, I'm a big fan of. I think he's a really good, tricky attacking midfielder who was really good at Frankfurt. Didn't quite make the grade at Napoli, but I think he was really good when he was in the Bundesliga, and I think he's got a lot of quality, really good left foot. I think Dyche will do a lot with him. And Ilman Ndiaye from Marseille, fast-paced forward. I think he could really help be a good partner for Calvert-Lewin if they play 4-4-2. I think he could play really well off him. So I can really see the benefit of that, those signings. So if they can get a replacement for Onana, I can see them being there about 13th.
All right, 12th, Sim's gone for Fulham. I've gone for Brentford. 11th, Sim's gone for Palace, and I've gone for Bournemouth. So, yeah, I think even without Dom Solanke, I think the way Iraola plays, I feel like he could, they'll still get quite a lot of wins there. And with Brentford, I feel, like I said before, Thomas Frank's a really good manager, and he'll navigate around anything that comes his way. And I think Ivan Toney might even end up staying this season.
12 for Brentford, that's a big shout. Fulham, yeah, I think I like the signings of Fulham. I think Smith Rowe improves their front line quality, which is really beneficial to them.
Just can't get away from João Palhinha though.
João Palhinha is a big miss, but they do have some good centre mids, and they need to, if they replace him, if they can get a defensive midfielder in, I actually still like the look of their side. They're linked with the likes of Joachim Andersen. If they can get him through the door, that would be a really solid signing as well. Or if they get someone of similar quality to him, that'll be really, really good. Obviously, Marco Silva's a really good manager. They are relying probably very heavily on Muniz recreating his goal scoring form from last season. That's kind of up in the air at the moment, but I'm going to bank on, this is more faith in the manager than anything, and I do like the signing of Smith Rowe, so I've gone for them in 12th. And then 11th,
Ryan
Palace.
Sessegnon back at Fulham as well.
Yeah, maybe he could be a good backup to Anthony Robertson, probably, I would say. And then Palace in 11th, I've just gone for them to miss out, albeit they had such a great end to last season. I just think that magic of Elise, I think Eze and Elise together was something really, really special, and it's something that really gave teams a lot of trouble. And Ismaila Sarr and Elise and Eze doesn't give me the same feeling. And I think Ismaila Sarr, don't get me wrong, is a good player. I see them having a bit more struggle of creating that same magic that they did with Elise and Eze together. They've still got Wharton there. Let's see if they can keep Mark Gahey. If they can do, I can still see them having a good season. But I just feel like if they had kept Elise, they'd be pushing potentially, that Conference League spot. That loss of Elise is going to be very big, and I can see them finishing in a similar position to they did last season. Rumours
for Mark Guehi going out the door as well. It's going to be interesting season for Palace, but they do have a very, very good manager there in Oliver Glasner.
Kamada's a great signing, actually.
Yeah, just scored in pre-season as well.
Good, and he was brilliant for Glasner at Frankfurt. He was really good, scored a lot of goals. So if they can get him producing that same form, and they can get Ismaila Sarr doing something, maybe that can make up for Elise.
It's mad to think about the managers in the Premier League. When you've got Iraola at Bournemouth, you've got Glasner at Palace, you've got Lopetegui at West Ham, and these are all top managers as well, and they're all managing mid-table sides.
That's the competitiveness of the Premier League. Every team is got a really good manager at the moment.
Let's move on to the top 10 now. And in 10th, I've gone for Palace and Sim's gone for Brighton. I still think, I definitely agree with what you're saying about Ismaila Sarr and Elise. As good as Sarr can be, he just ain't Elise, nowhere close to it. But with the way Oliver Glasner plays, with Eberechi Eze still there at this moment in time, with the defence that they have, I really like the look of their wingback Munoz as well, who really started to perform at the back end of last season. I feel Oliver Glasner will find a way to get results with this team. If, like you say, if Elise would have stayed, I would have put them probably 8th or 7th. But seeing as he has gone, I've put them in 10th.
Yeah, I've just gone for Brighton to pip them. I'm really liking the look of their project. Obviously, De Zerbi is gone, but the new manager is really exciting. He's young. He's got fresh ideas. He did really well at St. Pauli, and I'm really liking their business. Really exciting young players. Minte, Weaver. I think they're two really good bits of business. They just signed another winger. I can't remember his name, but from Mainz. He's a really exciting winger as well. I think is what Guna, I think his name is. They've still got people. They've still got a lot of quality like João Pedro, Mitoma. They've got bundles of ability in that front line. If they get a manager playing in that way, I think it could be really exciting for Brighton. So, not going for them to push the European places like they have been a couple of seasons, but I think a 10th place finish in his first season will be pretty respectable.
Into 9th, Sim's gone for Chelsea, I've gone for Brighton, and I completely agree with everything you said about Brighton. Another player which you didn't mention is Kozia Dubry, the academy prospect from Arsenal, who's a very big talent. I watched him play in the Arsenal under-21s against Tottenham under-21s, and he looked like a supreme talent. So I really like what Brighton have done this summer, and I think you're going to see a very exciting Brighton side once again this season, so I've put them at 9th.
I've gone for Chelsea. I think there's going to be a bit of a drop-off here. Yes, they got good players. They've got when on the face of it, they've got a good team. But I just think, I'm looking at the projects above them, and I just don't think they're the least stable. I don't know if I trust Maresca to head this new project for him. I don't know if he lasts the season. I'm sure their quality is good enough to get them enough wins to, be challenging for the European spots. But I feel like when the going gets tough, if things start going against them, do they have leaders there? Do they have a team spirit there? Whereas I'm looking at the other teams above them, and I think they're all pulling in a different direction. I've just got a bit more belief in their project, so I see Chelsea dropping down a bit mid-table. So I've gone for them in 9th.
Wow, so that would have made Chelsea's last 3 finishes 9th, 8th, and what
No,
was...
it will be 12th, 6th, and 9th.
That's mad, isn't it?
Happens.
That is mad.
And also, and they got Conference League as well put in there, so that's a bit of a distraction as well. Which maybe they might win the Conference League, but I can see that distracting them.
Next up in 8th, Sim's gone for Villa. I've gone for Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle were poor last year, but you got to put that down to injuries. And look, they do have a good side, but I just feel like they haven't done good business this summer as of yet. Maybe they will from now until the end of the window, but I'm looking at them and I'm looking at maybe the other teams around them, and I just think the other teams have done a lot better business. And I think this could be, and I think as well, Eddie Howe could be taking the England job at some point during the season as well. And if that happens, I do envisage another drop-off for Newcastle. So I've gone for 8th.
The reason I've gone for Villa there, Champions League football, I think it's going to be a big burden on the squad. Yes, they've signed a lot of players. Onana's obviously a good replacement for Louise. Maatsen at left back I really like. I think Philogene, Illing Jr. and Barkley, they've all supplemented the squad. But if I'm looking at their first 11 this season compared to last season, I don't know if it's better or not. And I think it really took everything they had last season to get into that top 4, every last bit of energy, and they really did fall away at the back end of the season. And I don't think they've improved the first 11, albeit I think the squad's improved a bit. But I feel like Unai Emery and Aston Villa, they're going to be concentrating a lot on that Champions League. It's going to take a lot of the energy out of some of their best players. Is Watkins going to be able to keep up those standards when he's playing Champions League football? I don't know, and I just feel like it could be a bit too much for them. So I've gone for them to drop down to 8th.
Yeah, so in 7th, Sim's got Newcastle. I've got Chelsea. I do think Chelsea can get it together a little bit this year, albeit I do think Maresca is going to get sacked at some point during the season, but I still think 7th will be a very disappointing year for Chelsea. So, like you say, they've got some really good players there. And I feel like once, I don't know whether it would happen before Maresca. It's interesting with Maresca. You just don't know. He's just such an unknown quantity. Mm-hmm. So you just don't know what they're going to be like. It's so hard to predict what Chelsea are going to be. But I think it will be somewhat of a disappointing season. And 7th, I couldn't pick them anywhere else but 7th.
Yeah, I put Newcastle there. No European football is going to be a really big advantage for them. And I think they've got some really good players. They don't need serious signings to be competitive again. If they can get that aggressive nature that Eddie Howe had them when they finished in the top 4, I can see them very much improving. I can see them of being more consistent than they were last season. Albeit I think they did end up finishing 7th last season anyway, but ended up dropping out of Europe because United won the FA Cup. But I think Isaac's still there. Harvey Barnes hopefully will stay fit from the start of the season. He's going to be a massive
not flop
addition.
of the season.
Huh?
Not flop.
Well, he done very well. To be fair to him, so got to give him credit. Joel Linton's back fit. He's a big. He's going to be a big player for them. If they can make a couple more signings as well, that'll be beneficial. But I think the lack of European football will really benefit them. And the way Eddie Howe likes to play one game a week, it will really benefit that aggressive Newcastle we saw a couple of seasons ago. So I'm confident to be 7th.
And for the second time in the 1 to 20 so far, we've picked the same team. 6th is West Ham. Like we keep saying, we both think they're going to be the overachievers of the season with the business that they have done. Brilliant players have come through the door. Somerville, Fulkrig, Todibo, Kilman, on top of the good players that they have already. So I see West Ham having a very good season.
And no European football.
And no European
football. So they've got
football.
one game a week with that kind of squad. They're going to be really difficult to play against. I can really see them taking a lot of points off for a lot of good teams this season. And I think there's a lot of excitement around West Ham as well. And I think they've got the quality to back it up. And I think this is a really exciting time to be a West Ham fan. So I can see them pushing top 6. And you know what? I wouldn't even be surprised if they get close to higher than that.
In 5th, Sim has gone for Manchester United. I've gone for Aston Villa. I do think Villa will have a drop-off. They finished 4th last season with Champions League football. But I do think that they have done some good business. They've definitely strengthened. They've got strength in depth now with Onana there. They've signed Philogene, who I think is a really good winger from the Championship. They've signed the guy from Juventus. What's his name? What's the geezer's
Illing
name?
Jr.
Yeah, Illing Jr., who Spurs have been linked with over the last couple of years. So I do think they have strength in depth now. They have lost a few players like Douglas Luiz and Moussa Diaby, which Douglas Luiz will be a massive loss for them because he's got so many goal contributions last year. So I do think that will be a loss. But I still think they can keep up their standards in 5th.
I've gone for Man United in 5th. I like their business. I think Mazraoui is a really good fullback, and I think he can plug a couple of gaps on either side. I think Xerxes provides competition and takes the pressure of Højlund a bit, so maybe I reckon actually benefit Højlund in a way to have another striker there, so it's not all on him to get those goals. And I think Xerxes, I'm not massively convinced by Xerxes, but I think the main thing is he provides competition for Højlund, and I think that competition could help both of them. Obviously, Matthias de Ligt is a really good signing at centre-back, albeit he hasn't quite lived up to his reputation that he hoped to when he first broke in at Ajax, but I still think it's a massive upgrade on maybe the ageing Varane who they had, and also they playing Maguire and Evans a lot last season. So obviously he's a big upgrade on that. If they can have him and Martinez for the majority of the season at centre-back, they could really improve. And I think that the trust given in Ten Hag would mean that there should be an improvement on how they play. But would 5th be enough to keep Ten Hag in a job? I don't know. Well,
the big question is Ten Hag going to last the season?
Well, if they finish 5th, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I'm saying like halfway through the season. I was watching the overlap, and I think Carragher said Ten Hag's going to be gone by November. That's his prediction.
Well, the reality is they were speaking to Tuchel, weren't they? And they wanted to get rid of him, but there wasn't really a good enough manager on the market, so they ended up keeping him. That's no real foundation for a season, is it?
Yeah.
You keep him because there's no one else.
But they have backed him.
They have backed him, but as I say, if fifth place finish, is that enough to keep him in a job? We'll have to because they'll be finishing third, but then
fifth could be Champions
sixth
League
and
again,
fifth.
no?
Oh yeah, it could be. We'll have to wait and see how the coefficients land. I guess if he gets Champions League, it might just be enough. We'll have to wait and see.
So in fourth, I've gone for Man United. Sim has gone for Tottenham. Look, like Sim said, I think the business Man United done is good. They've plugged holes in the squad, which they desperately needed last year. I think a big reason why they flopped so hard last season is because of the injured defence throughout the whole season. They very rarely got their first choice defence on the pitch. And with De Ligt, Yoro, who'll be back, he's injured now, but with a stronger defence this season, I think that's better foundations to go on. And I think with the teams that I've put below them, I just can't see them finishing above United with Villa, West Ham, Chelsea, Newcastle. So yeah, I think Man U in fourth isn't a bad shout.
I've got Spurs in fourth. I like the business we've done. Hopefully we get a few more through the door between now, or one or two more between now and the end of the window. I think another season under Ange, more acclimatization to the way we're playing. I think we played some really great football. I think hopefully with Solanke there now, we're gonna. I think quite a big problem which went a bit under the radar last season was there was quite a few, not that many games we scored more than 2 goals, and as much as a lot of people say our defence was a problem, that has to improve. And I think with Solanke there, that will improve, and there will be more games where not only will Solanke get more goals, but as well his presence will create more spaces and create more problems for the opposition. And I can see even Maddison, Son and other players benefiting from that as well, just Solanke's presence. So I think that'll be really beneficial. I think he's a really good signing. Hopefully, obviously we got a bit more centre-back depth now with Dragoshin there, which, last season when we lost Romero and Van de Ven, we didn't have any centre-backs to come in, and now we have Dragoshin, so that's beneficial. So I think that should not be as much of a problem as it was last season, and hopefully we won't have the injury problems which we did. And looking at Ange's previous work, in his first season, usually at new clubs, he does have a lot of injury problems, and then they usually get used to it come the second season, and hopefully that happens with Tottenham. So hopefully a lot of our players stay a lot more fitter than they were. So I've gone for Tottenham to sneak into that fourth place.
I mean, if I would have forgotten about these 115 charges and not taken it to account, and we would have had a lot more of a similar kind of positionings in the league, wouldn't we? Definitely. Tottenham would have been the same, Man U would have been the same, Liverpool would have been the same, and Arsenal probably would have been the same as well. But let's go to the top 3. I've gone for Tottenham in third, Sim's gone for Liverpool in third. And yeah, mainly I do think if Man City stay clear of the charges, Tottenham will finish in fourth. But like Sim said, I mean, there's not much more to add to it, because I think Solanke will be a massive presence for us this season. He will get a lot of goals. Sonny back out on the left. I want to see us get that right winger to provide competition for Brennan Johnson, because I think he desperately needs it. And I want to see players like Maddison, Kulusevski, Bissouma, Bentancur all really step up for Spurs this season, because none of them really had an outstanding season for Spurs last year. Really underwhelming. So they need to get back at it.
Yeah, I think I've gone for Liverpool just again. They haven't made any signings, so that's a bit of a worry if you're a Liverpool fan. Obviously, Zubimendi's rejected them. He would have been a bit of a game changer if they got him through the door. But I still look at their team, and they've got so much talent. Even with no new signings, they've got so much quality. Maybe lacking a bit of depth at centre-back, I think you could say. I think the forward line has got so much talent and depth. I think in midfield, you've got so many good players. With McAllister having another year, Szoboszlai having another year suited to them. So I still think, even with no signings, their quality is a bit better than Spurs and the other teams challenging. I also think the new manager Slot is a really good manager. I really rate him. I reckon they'll have a good start and maybe burn out near the end, but I've still got them in the top 3.
All right, so top 2. Sim's gone for Arsenal in second. I've gone for Liverpool in second. I feel like Liverpool will make signings from now until the end of the transfer window. They had that failed move for Zubimendi, which proves that they're willing to spend the money. So they will make signings. And I feel like once they reinforce that midfield, which I believe they will, they'll be a lot more confident going into this season. Arne Slot, like you say, is a very good manager. I feel like they might take a bit of time to get to grips with exactly the way he wants to play. Losing Jurgen Klopp for many years, which was a very key figurehead, central figure to Liverpool, will be a big thing. They will have a bit of a drop-off. But once Arne Slot gets into it, I feel like you'll see a really good and exciting Liverpool side. And I feel like they can finish second.
Yeah, so I've gone for Arsenal second. Obviously, they have signed Calafiori, really good signing to play that kind of left back or back up to Gabriel as well. So I think he would fit in at Arsenal really well. And they've already got a very tight defence, and they're obviously very good from set pieces. It will help with that. They're linked with Mikel Moreno, which I think will reinforce their midfield. But I still look at their 11. And I look at Man City and the machine they are, and the quality in their team, especially the quality in the forward line. And I still don't know if Arsenal have the quality to overcome this Man City side. I think they're still going to get close. I just don't know if Calafiori and Mourinho will bridge that gap with Man City.
He hasn't even joined
City.
yet, Mourinho.
He hasn't joined yet.
I don't think they've even put in a bid.
There's a lot of talk about it. It sounds like it probably will happen, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's just say Calafiori then. If it's just Calafiori, I don't know if that's enough to bridge the gap to Man City right now. I still see Man City having more quality in the top end, having more goals in them, and especially if they can make one or two signings between now and the end of the window to reinforce what they have. I just see a Man City being too difficult to catch still for Arsenal, despite Arsenal getting closer. So I've got Arsenal second and Man City top.
Yeah, and I have gone for Gunners to win the league because of the Man City charges. I feel like they are the best of the rest, unfortunately. And if Man City do get a significant points deduction, or worst case scenario, get relegated from this league, unfortunately, I feel like Arsenal are the ones that are going to take full expense of that and be the beneficiaries of it. So it's going to be a very, very hard end to the season if that was to happen, but let's hope it doesn't.
Well, yeah, let's hope. Let's hope the Premier League are bought and paid for by Man City. So,
let's hope for ultimate corruption from Man City this year in the Premier League. But no, that is it. That is it from us. A nice long stream for you guys today. I want to thank you all for joining, and do come and join us on FanTeam as well. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. A reminder that you've got until midnight Thursday night, Friday morning to join for free. After that, you will incur a £3 charge, but there is a lot of money up for grabs. So be in it to win it, guys. Click that link, join for free, and come and take us on in FPL for money, essentially. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.